All right, welcome to Access 3 review assignment. Once again, we're going to have to open up the proper files for this. This is Access in our reviews, and Access 3 does not have any additional data files that we have to download from Canvas. So the only thing that we have to make sure we do here is to open up the book to the proper section. So we're going to open up the textbook for Advanced Computer Apps to the blue page at the end of Access 3. So you're going to go to Access 3 on your table of contents, go all the way down to the review, the very first review assignment. This one actually is kind of a long one only because we're making a ton of queries. So in Access, queries are how we ask the database for specific questions and we want to retrieve specific information from that database. So we're going to be opening up the vendor database that we created in the previous modules. These do all just continually build on each other. So we are starting here with this one. In the event that you have an enable content button on here, you would click that to make sure that it lets you open it fully. First thing we're going to do is open the supplier table. Remember, this is data sheet view. This is design view. Your book tells you to use data sheet view and says to change the following field values for the record HAR 912. So we're looking for this particular record. They have us to change the address to 912 Medical Drive instead of Huntington Medical DR. The contact phone is also going to change 1226. And we changed the contact to Isabella and Lopez. And that's the only change that we make here. Also in the book, they actually talk about like finding and replacing. And this is a short table, so we could just look down here for this HAR record. But they do get into using the find and replace commands. That's here. Whenever you do that, you would click on the replace. If you were trying to find something to replace it, you would say find what, replace with what. And then down here is look in. And this is kind of a big deal. You've got to understand the match and the look in because these are important. If I was looking for my name, Tanya, and I say find Tanya right now, and I say find next, it's going to say there's not one. And that's because I'm clicked in the supplier ID field and it's replacing only or looking only in the current field. So you would have to say current document for it to actually be able to find my name. So just understand there are some things here that you have to look at. Match case means that match if they're capital or not capital. So if I were to type Tanya with a lowercase t, it's going to find it. Let me click back off of it. It's going to find it even though it's capital because we don't have that check marked. We don't say it has to match the capitalization. Okay, and when you do these questions in the exam or the review, it won't mark it right until you hit the X on these. So like even after you replace something, you have to hit the X for it to officially count the question right or wrong. All right, so now that we've got that changed, we are going to you save and close your supplier table, and then we're creating a query based on the supplier table. So we're going to click on that supplier table, go to create, and most of the time in this chapter, your best bet is going to be to use query design view. It doesn't say that you have to use one or the other, so really you could use either. But I'm going to go to query design and choose the supplier table and add it to the list. So here's my field list. Open that up so I can see them all. And then it tells me what order. It says company, category, contact first, contact last, phone, and city in that order. Then it says to sort the query in ascending order based on category. So you're going to come down here and you're going to find the sort line and go to the column for category and sort it ascending. And remember, ascending is A to Z. That's your standard alphabetical sort. All right, they tell you to save it and call it contact list. And then they tell you to run the query. Now, when you run it, what it does is it views it in the data sheet view. But there's a button here to run the query, and then you'll see your results come up. So it just tells you to save it, and then it has you to make changes to it. So we have the contact list query data sheet, which is this, and we're going to update the supplier table by changing the phone value field for Killington. So here's Killington, and there's the phone value field. we're replacing the whole thing. So 762-555-9811 for that one. Okay, now they're going to have us do some formatting changes to this particular one. So it says change the size of the text in the contact list query data sheet to a 12-point font. You don't have to highlight everything because you cannot have different sizes in a data sheet of a query. So you just click here, and when you change it, it changes it to everything. So it says 12-point, resize as necessary so all the field values and column headings are visible. That's where we're going to double click to best fit each of these so that we can see the column headings and we can see the contents. And there we go. All right, and it should be sorted in ascending order based on category. So see, equipment is all together, services all together, supplies are all together, and we did that prior to this. All right, the next formatting change is number 6 in your instructions, is to change the alternate row color. This is kind of hard to find. It's on the Home tab, and it's over here in this region. You've got your grid lines button, and then your alternate row color, which is here. If you hover your mouse over it, it will tell you. Alternate row means that it changes the color of every other. So we have like white and then that gray shade. So now they're going to have us to change that alternate color to a theme color, blue accent 5. So it's theme color, not standard. So it'll be up in the top section. Blue accent 5, lighter 60. So that's blue accent 1. So it's not that one. Go over here, blue accent 5, and then lighter 60. And there it is. And now you have this light little blue here. Okay, so we save and close that, and that's the first query. That's the only one that requires a lot of formatting for this particular chapter. Now the next part is we're going to create another query, and again, we're going to go into Design View to create each one of these. So I'm going to go to Query Design, and for this particular one, we're going to add both tables, product and supplier. So supplier and product, I've got them both. What you should recognize is that there's the relationship here between these two tables. So if I drag these together, you can see the supplier ID is the one side, and the many side is supplier ID of the product. So like there's lots of products, and you can get them from various suppliers. So like Amazon might have 80 different products. So it will be over here many times, but Amazon will only be listed over here one time. Okay, so it says select company, category, and state from supplier. Company, category, and state from supplier, and then product name, price, units, and weight from the product table. Okay, so we've got that set up properly. We've got all these fields down here. Now remember, if you run a query, it's going to switch you to data sheet view, and it's always going to make you save it. So they'll always have you save before you run. Now before I do that, it gives some additional instructions. It says sort the query results in descending order on price. So we're going to go to price, find the row that says sort, descending order. So that means that you're going to have your higher priced items at the top. And so that's what descending will do there. Then it says select only the records with a category field value of supplies. So here's our category field. For the criteria, so it doesn't go in sort, it goes in criteria, we would say supplies. So we only want the ones that are supplies to pop up here. Now be careful because these little guys try to pop up, and if you hit tab, it's going to pick one of those, and that's not what we're looking for. Technically, you would put this in quotation marks. You don't have to, because if you click off of it, it does it for you. But that's how that works. So when we set the criteria for a word, you could type it in quotation marks, or after you click off of it, it'll put the quotation marks on there. Okay, now I'm going to run this. I'm going to go ahead and save it because I have to. This is not over, so don't just listen. So supply products is what this one's going to be called. Now if I run it right now, we can see it does work, and these are all the ones that are supplies, and it is in descending order, so the highest price is at the top. But your instructions specifically say do not display the category field value in the query results. So it doesn't want to say supplies, supplies, supplies over and over and over again. I personally like to run it first that way, just so I can make sure it works, so that I know I am getting all the ones that are supplies. So to not show that in the results, we uncheck this little show checkbox right here. And now when I run it, we don't see supplies, but we know they are the supply products. Okay, so we'll save and close that one. Easy peasy. We're on number 8 now. Create a query that lists all products that cost more than $50 and that are temperature controlled. So that means we have 2 criteria that are going to go into this one. So I'm going to go to Query Design, In this case, we're going to be pulling from the product table, and it tells you which specific fields: product ID, product name, price, units, and sterile. So we've got all of those in there. Now, if you think about it, though, the instructions said create a query that lists all products that cost more than $50. So for price, we would have to do more than 50. That's a greater than sign and 50. And you do not put a dollar sign in there because it's stored as a number. So you don't put a dollar sign. Okay, so it says list all products that cost more than $50 and are temperature controlled. Now, temperature controlled is one of the fields here. It is not one they want in the results, though. So that means we have to add it, and then we're going to not show it. Okay, and this temp control is a yes/no field. It's a checkbox field. So if we are saying things that are temperature controlled, then for the criteria, we're going to say yes. Now let's just run this with it showing to check it. Okay, see how these all have check marks? So these all have check marks, and we can see that that works. And then are they all more than $50? Yes, they are. So we can tell that the query is actually working. Now we can uncheck this. Now notice yes is not in quotation marks, and this is not in quotation marks. Only things that have to match exactly in our text have to be in quotation marks. Okay, so when we're talking about numbers, those don't go in quotation marks. When we're talking about comparison operators, like greater than, less than, or equal signs, those don't go in quotation marks. And when we're talking about a yes/no field, and the answer is yes or no because it's a check, we do not put that in quotation marks. Okay, all right, so at this point, I'm ready to save this query. High price and temp control. And then again, they tell you to run it and close it. So, all right. So again, I always think it's a good idea to double check your query that it works, even when it tells you that you don't, have to show it. I think it's kind of important to do that. Okay. All right. Continuing on, create another query. So we're back in here again into query design. This next query is going to list information about suppliers who sell equipment or sterile products. Okay. So this time we're going to include from the supplier table sum and from the product table sum. So we'll look here and see what all they want. Okay, so it says include company, category. Oops, I didn't click that first one. So I'm just going to drag this down here in front. Company and then category and then contact first. By the way, you can also click on these little things here. It's just confusing to me to do it, so I don't. Contact first and contact last. So those are there. And then after that, it says product name, price. So product name, price, and then temp control and sterile. So we've got all those fields, lots of fields here. Okay. Now it says list information about suppliers who sell equipment. Okay. So suppliers sell equipment. How do we know if they sell equipment? Well, that would be the category, right? If you don't know, run it and look. Category says supply, service, equipment. So that's how we can tell we're in the right place, okay? So I'm going to say equipment, okay? So if I run this right now, they'll all be equipment. That's right. But then the secondary thing says they either sell equipment or they sell sterile products. Now, so that means the sterile would be a yes. This is an or, okay? They say they sell equipment or they sell sterile products. If I put my yes on this same row of equipment, what I'm saying is they sell equipment and they sell sterile products. Well, none of the equipment is sterile. So you're going to get no results at all. So what happens is this second line, so criteria is this first line, the second line is an or. So if we put yes in the second line, what we're saying is it's either equipment or it's sterile products. Okay, so now what we see is it's equipment, but if it's not equipment, it's check marked with that sterile. Okay, so that's how that one works. We'll go ahead and save it, equipment or sterile, and so forth. So the book does not tell you, like you need to go type this in this box, you need to go type this in this box. You just have to know because you have to kind of, context clues here on this one. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and close this one and move on to the next one. Number 10, create a query that lists all resale products. Let's go ahead and hit that query design. Lists all resale products along with a 10% markup amount based on the price. All right, so this is going to be a listing of certain products in a certain category, plus we're going to give a markup, which means we're going to be creating what's called a calculated field. Okay, so it says use the company field from the supplier table. So company field from, oh, can't do that yet, hold on. And then something from products, so we'll put them both in there. All right, so I got my company field from the supplier table. And then from the product table, we're going to do product ID, product name, and the price. So those are the ones they want us to include. Okay, let me go ahead and save it because it gives us the name here real quick. Resale products with markup. Again, using that camel case where each word starts with a capital, but no spaces. All right, it says display the markup in a calculated field named markup that determines a 10% markup based on the price. And then we have to set a caption, and we've got to do some sorting. So this one gets a little complicated. Let's start with the first part. The very first line of the instruction says, create a query that lists all resale products. Okay, let's just run it and look at it. How do we know if they are resale products? Can we tell from this? No, we absolutely can't. So we don't have the field that we need to be able to identify whether these products are resale products or not, which means there's probably a field that we're going to have to not show, that we're going to have to put in here. So if you're not sure about it, you can go into, open up that product table and take a look. If it's not there, then you would go and look at the supplier table. Okay, so we're looking for resale products. Well, I don't see any that are resale on here. So maybe it's not in a category. I assumed it would be in a category, but that's what happens when I don't look at these ahead of time and I just go for it, right? All right, well, I guess these are all resale products since this is actually a company that has vendors. Okay, well, if there was a category, we would have to put that criteria in here. There apparently is not one. Okay, so what we are going to do now is we are going to create a calculated field. So that's going to be put here. The book likes for us to use the zoom button to do that so that we can type this out. So what we're going to do, it says to name the field markup. So to name the field, you type the name of the field in front of a colon, like this. Okay, and then we're determining a 10% markup based on the price field. So that means we have a field called price. We have to look over here and make sure that it looks just like this, and it does, it has capital P. So I'm going to put in a bracket and then price. That means that's the name of that field, the price field. Okay, and then we're going to do the math. We're doing a 10% markup. So we're going to put a star, an asterisk to multiply. And times 10%, you don't put 10%, you put it as a decimal, so 0.1. We're going to hit OK here. And then it tells us to set a caption property to markup for the calculated field. So we need to set a caption. We don't have everything we need to do that. Over here, we need to have the property sheet showing. So I'm going to go to my Query Tools Design tab, go to Property Sheet, and find Caption. Make sure I'm in the right column for that. And then for this caption, we want the word markup. It's M-A-R-K with a U that's capitalized. That's funny because the one down here is not capitalized. So pay close attention to that. Okay, then it says display the query results in descending order by price. So descending on price. Let's run this and see if we have something now. Okay, we do. It says price is $12,000. Markup, that's 10% of that, is $1,200. Now they don't have us to make that a currency field or anything like that. So that's the way this should look. Okay, so there we go. We'll go ahead and save and close. And we'll move on to the next part. Oh, here we go. Now it does have us change it. Number 11, modify the format of that markup field. So we're going to get back into that one. Remember that one is equipment or sterile. So we're going to go back to, oh wait, no it's not. This one is resale products. Okay, so we're going to go in here and go back to design view. We are going to go to the markup field and we are going to set it so it uses standard format. So over here where it says format, you're going to choose standard. And then beyond that, 2 decimal places, just so it looks a little better. Okay, then we run the query, we're going to resize everything, and then we'll be set here. And it looks like it's all probably good, but just to be on the safe side, I'll go double click all these little guys. There we go. All right, there we go. And that's it for that one. That's instruction number 11. Number 12, we're going to create another query. Lots of queries. This is a more complicated query. This is an aggregate query where we're trying to basically use what we call aggregate functions, which are things like max and min and average and those types of things. So this one says we're going to calculate the lowest, highest, and average prices for all products using the field names minimum price, maximum price, and average price, respectively. Set the caption property. So we are actually running statistics for this particular one. Okay, we're talking about products, the price of products. So we're going to be here. We're using price. We are going to figure out 3 different things about the price. We're going to figure out the minimum price, we're going to figure out the maximum price, and we're going to figure out the average price, which means price comes down here 3 times. So I know this is super complicated, but that's just the way it works. So price comes down here 3 times. When we're doing an aggregate function in a query, we have to add a special little row. It's called a total row. The reason is because we have to have another little box, a line down here that we don't have. So see how when I click on that, the total row says group by? See if I turn it off, that total row disappears. So instead of grouping by, this is where we choose those aggregate functions. So the first one is a minimum price. This one is going to be the maximum price. And this one's going to be the average price. Those are the 3 that they've asked for. Now, in order to make the right words appear, because if we do this, it's going to say min of price, max of price, average of price, which is not what they want, then we're going to have to set captions over here. And so over here, it tells us to set the caption property for each field to include a space between the 2 words of the field. So I would click on this one and then minimum price. And so they are going to have us to give them names and then to caption them. So they want this first field to be called minimum price. So you put that just in front of a colon. And you can hit the zoom thing, like if you want to, you can hit zoom and type it up in here. So this one's maximum price, and then price, and then average price. Okay, let's just make sure it's still working. Everything's still working, so we're good. And then they want us, and I'm going to copy and paste this to make this faster, to change the caption on these. So we're just going to put a space bar between there. Come here and take it again. Space bar between there, here. Copy and paste. Caption, space bar. Okay, great. So there we are. We have all of that set in there. We've run the query. Well, we're going to run the query. We get all that. We're going to double click and of course best size these guys so we can see all of the words and all of the values. Okay, so they're going to have us call this one price statistics. And there we go. All right, now they're going to do a weird thing, and make sure you close this because you can't do it if it's not closed. They're going to have us to make a copy of this one and use it again. So it's kind of goofy. You got to go to copy and then come over here in the blank space and paste. And then it's going to have you name the next one. This one's going to be called price statistics by supplier. So now we are going to want to group these on the company field in the supplier table. So we're going to have to add that in there. So I'm going to go in here. This is the beginning of this, but on this time we're going to put in the supplier. And I don't have that table in here, so I'm going to click show table and go to supplier to get it. And we want the category for the, well, wait a minute, let's see. Grouped by the company. Okay, no, I just need the company. So I'm going to take the company and we're going to put it in here first. And then this time on that total row, we're going to say group by. So what it does is it's going to put the company is going to have a line, and then you're going to get the minimum price for that company, the maximum price for that company, and the average price for that company. It's going to group these together before it does those statistics. Okay, they said the company field should appear first, so I have it first in here. But if you messed up on that, you can always pick them up and drag them around like that. So it's not a big deal. Okay, let's go ahead and run it. There we go. So we have our ABC Pharmaceuticals, the minimum price from them, maximum price, and average price for that specific supplier. So saving and closing here. And there we go. And that's pretty much it for this review. This is a long one because we did have to make a whole bunch of queries. But there you go. So final thing you'll do will be compact and repair. and then you're good to go.